And I'm back. Yeah, sorry about the interruption last time. I had someone come over. We're doing something. Basically, they came earlier than I thought they would, so I had to skedaddle. And yeah, I'm just gonna post this again on Twitter. Yeah. So yeah, where'd it go? Here we go. So yeah, I don't really know how to see the comment, but um, yeah, I'm using a different platform. Apparently, I was gonna use OBS, but now I'm using Hangouts for some reason. I don't really understand it myself, but oh, here we go. There we go. Um, yeah. Um, okay, I found it. Never mind. All right, now we're back here. So, um, all right. So last time I was talking about Avatar, which is right here. I was showing off the collection that I bought. You can get it like $28. It's really not that expensive. There's no Blu-ray release. So I just went with DVD. I usually just go for DVD anyway, but I mean, I like Blu-rays nonetheless. They're just kind of expensive, and I don't really find the difference in quality to be that big of a deal. Like even VHS tapes. The only thing I prefer, the reason I prefer DVDs over VHS tapes is purely because of the size difference and the space it saves. Um, yeah, Avatar, fucking classic show. Um, yeah, I remember back in fourth grade. That's when I started watching it. And I hadn't when I bought this. I watched it. It was the first time I had seen it since around seventh grade, I'd say. Um, at least an entire episode. I mean, I randomly watch like random scenes probably at some points, but yeah, loved it just as much as I did back then. Definitely one of my favorite American cartoons. I'm going to get more into that a bit later because um, some stuff I watched was there's one American cartoon, and I'll talk about it then because I don't want to like give away what it was now before I even talk about it. But I mean, everyone knows Avatar. I don't really need to explain the premise. Let me just explain this release though. It's actually not that bad. It looks pretty bad, but that's because this is the only real shitty part of it. We take out the individual seasons. They're in different cases. They use more plastic. Um, they're thinner though, and that's always good to have more space. They're not as decorative, which I'm not a big fan of, but I actually like these all right. I mean, I don't really care what they look like. They're fucking cases for fuck's sake that aren't even, on the shelves by themselves. They're in a fucking box. So, yeah, no biggie. Here I'll show the new art. There's a lot of great extras on these. A lot of commentaries. There's in the first one. There's one called. Hold on. I think it's Ask the Creators, where um they pretty much it's the two creators and they're acting out different scenes when they're you know making the show pretty much, and that was pretty funny. We also got an interview with the voice actors for Aang, Sokka, and Zuko, and Momo and Appa, which is the same voice actor. He's in a lot of stuff, by the way. D. Bradley Baker. But yeah, book 1 and book 2. Yeah, I watched pretty much all of the extras except for the commentaries, since I was already watching the episodes without the commentaries. So I think I'm gonna go watch the commentaries at some other time, probably around Christmas time, I imagine. There are also a couple episodes where it's like the uncut animation or animatic, and I didn't watch those because it was pretty much the episode in storyboard form, and yeah, I do want to watch those, but just like the commentaries, I'll just wait until then, because it's not the same episodes that have commentaries. But yeah, it's released. I mean, they're good quality cases, standard, but effective. They're in great condition. The box is just flimsy though, and it's wrinkled up. I don't know if you can really see. You can get a glare on there to amplify it. Yeah, you can kind of see, but it does its job well. It provides the info, holds them all together, and looks pretty nice. I put it with my anime because I don't give a fuck that it's not an anime. It's going over there because that's how big of a deal it is. Next, I put all my shit over there. Here we go. Next, now we're getting into some stuff that is not anime or manga related. So we got, for my birthday, it was October 5th, and sorry if you can hear the dog. It's not my dog, I'm just watching it. Why don't we take a look? Oh wait, there's some spoilers there. Maybe later. Anyway, for my birthday, someone gave me the Spider-Man trilogy on Blu-ray. This is pretty nice. It has 4 discs. It has the first one, the second one, the third one, and it has the third movie's special features. No, wait, that's something. Why did I? Am I stupid? No, there's Okay, in here would be a better display. Whoops. We have book 1 and book 2, book 3 and book 3 special features. Oh, and yeah, if you saw, they were like, you just slip them in. A lot of people don't like that way of doing that. I personally don't give a shit. Hold up. Sometimes it just happens on stream. Anyway, I personally don't mind it because I'm not a complete dumbass that just fucking shoves it in there. I mean, you really have to, not have no idea how to treat a DVD if, this style is, bad. And plus, it's made completely out of paper, which is environmentally correct, I suppose. And there's some slip-ins, some things they threw in here. That's cool. I like keeping those things in there just because it gives it some sort of interest you don't normally see. But yeah, there's these Spider-Man movies. They're among my favorite films in general. I don't love a lot of films, but I love these films. Even the third one. A lot of people hate the third one. However, I will say that is the only one I have only watched one time. Not really by my choice. It's just I had the other 2 on DVD already, and not the third one. and I had no immediate desire to buy the third one just because, you know, I care more about anime and manga, or rather specific titles, more than this specific title. But now I'm glad I have it all on Blu-ray because it's, you know, nicer quality, saves a lot of space because it's all in one thin package. And yeah, I mean, I think I like the second one the best. I also love the first, and yeah, I will give you once again, the third one's probably my least favorite, but not really because it's bad, just because it's the least, the one I enjoyed the least out of all three. And of course, I'll be really interested in all these extras. There's stuff like, of course, bloopers and outtakes and shit. You always gotta love those. You got screen tests, which I don't really know what that means. Costume and makeup tests, those are always cool. Got some documentaries and more. We got commentaries, more bloopers, visual effects, breakdown, bunch of making of stuff. Yeah, it's, you know, typical shit, but cool nonetheless. Definitely enjoyable to me. Yeah, Spider-Man, awesome trilogy. I don't really care for the Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man, though, we go back quite a while. It was one of the first comic books I ever read. My uncle got me a couple, not just Spider-Man. I think there was some Fantastic Four. Um, wow, I don't really remember. There's more Spider-Man. Mutts. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a newspaper strip. That's fucking great. I haven't read it in years though, probably since like elementary school. But I have like 3 of them in my closet. Should read them sometime. Another good one is Calvin and Hobbes. That one's phenomenal, but that's unrelated. Oh, but anyway, they made a 70s. Well, in the 70s, they made a live action series of it, and I think I watched the pilot. It wasn't released on DVD or anything though, so that kind of sucks. I'd totally buy it though, and I think they. Is there anything else? I don't know. There's a couple cartoons. The '90s cartoon, that one I watched all of. I think there's like 5 seasons. It was pretty good. Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man I didn't really care for. I liked the first one all right. The second one I liked less, and I didn't even see the new one. I don't really care about superhero movies anymore. Last one I watched was the X-Men one, which sucked. Um, Before that, though, it was also a while. I think, wow, might have been. What's even come out? I don't even know. You know, honestly, I'm just looking forward to the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. That would be much more cooler than Marvel or DC, in my personal humble opinion. Because I grew up on that shit. I didn't grow up on your fucking Cartoon Network shit. Not that that stuff is shit. It's just not what I grew up with. You see all these people on Twitter like, childhood ruined because of this thing that happened way after my childhood. But no, I didn't even watch any of that shit, so it doesn't even apply to me. Can't catch me this time, people. Oh, we got some books. Yeah, actual books. Pulling a hipster mooncat on you guys. Yeah. No, that's not a diss. I love that video. Recommend some. He recommended some great titles. First one. We have. Well, I want to show this one first. I want to show you guys one first. Now, in this case, I have the complete series. I had a couple of these books prior. Some of them were in soft cover, and I sold them to replace them with the hardcover because they go better as hardcover books. But even so, I still had some hardcovers. Wow. Yeah, I just like ate an hour ago. Um, but yeah, complete series. I bought a little bit over half the series in the past few months. And the series is a series of unfortunate events. Um, I read this series back in fourth grade through fifth grade. It took me that long. I finished it the summer after fifth grade, I remember. And that that was when the one time throughout the series when I finished it, that was when I got kind of depressed. Um, because I find humor in a lot of things. I find these books very humorous. They're very dark for children's books, which is kind of some of the controversy that surrounded it back in the day. But I loved it. Um, Probably my favorite book series. But yeah, I'll show them off really quick. So this one I bought at a garage sale a while ago, so it wasn't even in the past couple months. But it's the first box set with the first three books. And the box set's actually the box itself is, better quality than the Avatar box. Jesus Christ. And I like this box because if you don't know, on the back of these books, there's always a letter from the author, Lemony Snicket. But in the box set, there's a letter on the cover from the villain, Count Olaf. Um, yeah, let's show these books really quickly. We got The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room. I need to stop holding it like that because that's retarded. Reptile Room and The Wide Window. Yeah, it's the trilogy. And not to mention the entire rest of the series, which, let me just put this over here. There's a big stack on my bed. We have The Miserable Mill, book 4. That was the last one I read, I think. And we have The Austere Academy. I think that's how you pronounce that word. This is the one I'm going to read next, though I'm already, reading some other stuff currently. I read these book series out of, like, I don't read them like all at once. I usually read, a book or two, then go on to a different source of literature. As you'll notice, they'll get progressively thicker, except for book 4, which is actually about as thin as the first book. But anyway, the Ursat's Elevator. Remember this one pretty well. It's a good one. Got The Vile Village. I remember that one being pretty hectic. This one's kind of faded, actually. But yeah, I like it that way. Gives it some character, Have the Hostile Hospital, the one that took fucking forever to ship here, but it did. Evidently. That was a pretty good one. Book 9, this is where it gets really good. The Carnivorous Carnival. I remember this one was pretty good. Book 10, this one's, really thick. The Slippery Slope. This is the first of the really thick ones. Yeah. Because it's the most significantly thicker, the first of the most significantly thicker books in the series. We got The Grim Grotto. I really like the title of that one. And of course, The Story Within. Nelly. And The Penultimate Peril. I love the word penultimate. It means the one right before the last, which, it's the penultimate book in the series. Because there is 13 books total, excluding that epilogue. because it's such an unfortunate series of events. Um, on the end, pretty fitting title. Actually, not really. There was actually yeah, it is fitting, but there was a prequel made like 4 books long called All the Wrong Questions, I believe. I've not read that yet. I'm gonna get it at some point. Yeah, I'd say that's one of my favorite book series. I'll be talking about some other books later on, because I read an amazing book last month, and I'll be talking about that. Not too much, because I know you guys prefer anime stuff. I'm actually going on a bit longer than I intended to on this section, but there's only a couple titles left. Like 3 Times Carlin, An Orgy of George. Now, you might not be familiar with this guy. This right here, that's George Carlin. He was a fantastic comedian from like the 70s to 2008, which is when he died. This man was brilliant. He was somewhat of an influence to me, like my way of thinking. Um, by the way, it includes 3 of his books, like his 3 best books, I suppose. There are a couple others, but I'll get them. I haven't even started this yet. Um, yeah, right in 2008, he's an old man, and he goes on for one final performance, and stand-up comedian, by the way. I didn't really specify, but he's still witty, charismatic. Just seems to be a healthy individual and smart as hell as ever. Like, this guy knew how to live, because he wasn't some, you know, like fucking crotchety old bitch talking about the weather all the time, which it's a horrible topic to talk about. Who gives a shit about the weather? Um, I mean, if it's, if I'm going to be directly involved in it, then I vaguely care. Like, if it's about the rain, then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll note that. I'll keep that in mind. But it's not something to have a conversation about unless you're having an interesting conversation about the science behind weather, or something interesting like that. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to read this, because first heard about Carlin from Code Provider, actually. Been following him for a few years, and I watched all his videos back in the day, and he showed this in a video. Briefly, it was forget what video it was. It was probably like a room tour. He actually deleted a shit ton of videos, like from way back when. Those were some great memories, man. I don't know why he deleted all of them. Wow. Because I was gonna go back and rewatch some of those old videos, but they weren't there. Wow. God, those were just the atmosphere of them was good. He was one of my favorite YouTubers. He hasn't really done much interesting lately. Like the whole let's find an anime that isn't trash. That was cool, but then he just started reviewing Keijo weekly, which I don't give 2 shits about weekly reviews. Um, but I mean, do what you love, man. I mean, I'm not gonna judge him. I don't mind. I don't look down on people who do that. Um, it's their thing. They can do it. You can do what you want. Anyway, yeah, spent too much time on that, but yeah, recommend watching his live performances at least. But I can't really speak for the book itself. It's all the way over there. my final pickup were it's 3 books in a series that were given to me for free. This is a series that was prevalent in my elementary school years. I was, it was on my to read list, but I never got around to it. I remember I was in the library one time and in elementary school, and I was looking through the first book, and I read a little bit, a few pages of it, and I thought it was interesting enough to continue on reading it until it starts to suck or something. But I never got around to it uh, until now. Um, Not technically now, because I haven't even started it yet. But it is called uh, Magic Septimus Heap. This is book 1. They're pretty thick, but they're for elementary school readers, and the print size is not bad at all, and the diction is probably also not that bad. Yeah, I like to read books. Like, I don't really give a shit about the reading level. Like, if it's a good story, then I'm gonna fucking read it. I say that just because some people, they're like, you should read some stuff that's more your age level, and I do. I just recently finished an enormous book that's probably uh, some level in high school. Like, who gives a shit about reading levels anyway? Like, I don't fucking care. Anyway, also the second book, Flight. Like, just these covers look interesting. It's probably one of the things that intrigued me, as well as the spelling of the words magic and flight and physic, the third book. So hopefully I like it. I got these for free, but it would still be a shame if I didn't enjoy them. Really happy I got these for free, actually, because I probably wouldn't have even thought of the series at all had I not gotten these for free from somebody. But yeah, not really anything to say on that. Yeah, a few series I used to read back in elementary school included, like, the chapter books. Um, like, I remember reading Spiderwick in second grade. I'm saying this because, if you guys had similar reading material when you were in elementary school. But yeah, there's also the Spiderwick sequel, which I didn't really like. Um, Gregor the Overlander, I read that. That was interesting. I liked it. I didn't like the Hunger Games though. Fuck that shit. Fuck it to hell. Um, yeah, but Gregor was good. It was actually amazing. Um, my friend got me into it. Um, Another one, I can't really remember a lot of these, but there's a lot. I remember in fifth grade I was really into the Goosebumps books. That was pretty fun. Um, I mean, what can I say? The, I just can't remember what I read back then. It's kind of late though. It's actually not that late at all. It's only like almost 9, but I woke up at 5 this morning, and I haven't slept since because I like to change it up a little bit, you know. Anyway, let's get into what I've been reading and watching. Let's start with what I'm reading, or what I have read. Um, there's one anime. So first off, I finished Full Metal Alchemist. This is probably my favorite cover. I talked about it last time, but I didn't really go into detail because I figured I'd finish it before actually uh, saying, anything of what I thought about it. There's the back, just in case you were wondering. Yeah, I really like this cover. It's Hohenheim with the dwarf and the flask. Anyway, Fullmetal Alchemist. I first read this back in 7th grade because my friend introduced it to me. He let me borrow his omnibus and his second omnibus and his third omnibus, and that was all that was out in terms of omnibuses for Fullmetal Alchemist at the time. Now I think the complete series is released in those 3-in-1s, which I don't really like those, but go for it. It saves you money. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal that the pages are complete shit because, like, is everyone a fucking gorilla with their fucking books? Like, yanking the page open? Like, no, I'm careful even with good quality paper. So that's not really what, like, bothers me. It's just I prefer these better. They're just, you know, easier for me, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Fullmetal Alchemist, it was probably my favorite. I never really feel that anything is, like, I never feel strongly that anything is my absolute favorite. Well, if I do, it's in rare cases, like the Naked Gun trilogy. Those would be my favorite movies, um, hands down. Um, which I have on DVD, but I'm not going to show it right now. Anyway, Fullmetal Alchemist. It's one of my favorite series. Now, I was mainly watching the anime of Fullmetal Alchemist. Basically, I read through, like, probably, I don't know, a good chunk. Probably like 12 volumes. Or wait, hold on, this is a bit fuzzy for me. Did I finish it in 8th or 9th grade? No, I definitely didn't finish it. I mean 7th grade, damn it. Well, it wasn't 7th grade because after 7th grade I probably read, like, a little bit past volume 12. And I started watching the anime because both were on Netflix. And then I watched Brotherhood, and Brotherhood was also one of my favorite anime. And I haven't seen Brotherhood or the original since watching them back then, but um, after rereading Fullmetal Alchemist, it's been great. I pretty much just as good as I remember it being. Maybe not as much in the beginning, but it's still some classic shit. I think it gets good around volume 6. Like, if you're feeling it's a bit slow, um, I'd recommend just going into volume 6. Yeah, I mean, my favorite characters would be um, Scar, definitely. Also, Greed, um, and Izumi Curtis, the Elric brothers' teacher. She was awesome. And is that all? Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I mean, I sometimes I feel like I'm forcing myself to read something. I have hints of that even in stuff I'm loving, though it's not as bad as it sounds. But toward the end of the final volume, I was thinking a bit like, I can't wait for this to be over. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not gonna tell myself I didn't think that even a little bit, because that's all it was, just a little bit. But then I got to the ending, and which was like the greater volume of the volume, the greater amount in the volume was the ending, and that I was really into that. Um, couldn't put it down. So yeah, it's pretty cool that I finished that. Um, I don't really know what to say, really. I mean, this was like 3 months ago. No, 2.5. But yeah, After that, I read a 2-volume series from Vertical entitled Sickness Unto Death. Yeah, guess this is my favorite cover, apparently. It's also an interesting drawing there. Basically, Sickness Unto Death is basically about a guy who is a college student. He's studying to become a psychologist, I believe, or someone that helps with mental illnesses. And he comes across this girl who he's actually going to be living in her mansion because she's rich. And he, I guess, I forget how he got into the mansion. Like why are they bringing him in there? But whatever. Um, and she is mentally ill because she, well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, um, she uh, basically just has nightmares, including like, well, that's more spoilers. So yeah, I can't really remember. This is a bit hazy in my memory because I remember I was reading a lot like right when I woke up at like 5 in the morning, which I'm a bit tired then, and this was 2 months ago. But it basically it sounds dark and depressing, but it's really not that bad. There's something dark and depressing. I'd go for Welcome to the NHK or No Longer Human. Um, though I guess NHK isn't that dark because it's very comedic too. But anyway, Sickness Unto Death. It's not very funny, but it's not that depressing, which is what I imagined it would be. I imagined it would be very depressing. Um, Co-provider, I remember he said he didn't even like this manga. Um, but yeah, it's basically the guy helping or trying to help the girl with the mental illness, and I would recommend it. I really did like it. Um, it's basically just a short story. If you want a quick read, you could read it in a day. I read these volumes each in one sitting. Well, uh, it would have been both volumes in one sitting, but I read the first volume the night prior to when I read the second volume. It's all coming back to me now, and it was a good read. I liked it a lot, and I would recommend it. If you want to support Vertical, you want a quick story to read, check out Sickness Unto Death. Also, I hear Wolfsmund is good, but I haven't read that. Next, we have Trigun, Volume 1. As you can see, this is a hardcover book without the slipcover. I'm not gonna get it down right now, but I have the second volume that is a hardcover, and it has a slipcover. It's black though on the inside, like on this part. So I bought volume 2 at a bookstore like a year ago, and then I ordered this online so I could read it. And I only just now, well, not just now, like 2 months ago, got around to reading it, or trying to read it. Now, let me point out, as you can see, this has some character. It looks like someone bled all over the corner and came all over the rest of it. Yeah, fucking great. But it gives it character, and it looks pretty cool. It's probably not blood or cum, but I like to think it is because gives it some character. I also really like this kanji. Now, however, as nice as this book does look, it fucking sucked. It really fucking sucked. Purely because the artwork was good alone, but when it's trying to flow, the author doesn't know how to like make a coherent sequence. Like there are those. It's one of those series where like there's panels where you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? What is this? Like there's one where like Vash the Stampede, the protagonist, is brandishing a gun, let me get in the camera. It's brandishing a gun, and then it shows a close up and it's clicking whatever the fuck. And then it shows some obscene shape that I don't know what the hell it was. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on half the time. It's that makes it a slow, confusing read. If you're like me, other readers would probably have a better time with it, but this didn't get good reviews with other people in reviews that I have watched before. But I still am interested in the Trigun story, so I think I'll either go with the anime or I think it's a remake entitled Trigun Maximum, which went on way longer than 3 volumes in Japan. Because it's one of those space westerns, one of the big 3 space westerns, including Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, and Outlaw Star. Now, for Cowboy Bebop, I've read the Shooting Star manga, and I've read 2 volumes of the 3-volume adaptation of the anime. And Shooting Star came before the anime, I think. So I'm just gonna get those again, read those, and then I'll watch the anime because my mom actually owns that anime on DVD. Even though they just put it on Crunchyroll recently. What the fuck? You couldn't have done that earlier? No, I know how that works. It's not Crunchyroll's fault. But yeah, and then I guess because I have the first 2 volumes of that other manga already. So I guess I'll just get that 3rd volume. Though the adaptation really sucks. I don't remember Shooting Star sucking though. I remember that was pretty good. It was interesting. But yeah. And Outlaw Star I've not seen at all, but I want to. Anyway, speaking of space westerns, this one is pretty similar to Trigun. And in my opinion, much better. And that is Zombie Powder. Infamous for being canceled after the 4th volume, but famous for being the pre-Bleach title by Tite Kubo. And I like Bleach. I actually like Bleach better, but this is probably the better manga anyway. Like you can say it's better, but I still like Bleach better. Basically about this guy. I forget his name. What's his name? His name is like Jack or no Gamma. Where did I get Jack from? The fuck. Anyway, he is a shadow hunter, I think. No, I don't know what he's called, but he wants the 12 Rings of the Dead, which in this fictional universe basically bring the dead back to life. Or if you get all 12 of them, you can also become immortal. And he wants to become immortal. So he runs into this kid who's, I think, his sister's killed or something. And they join together because they fought the bad guys together. And that guy wants, the kid wants to resurrect his sister, his dead sister. So they go on their journey together and they recruit more people and they get more friends and they get in fights. Kind of typical shonen, but fun nonetheless. Now this manga, it's pretty good. Even if you're not interested in the premise, you may also consider getting the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th volumes because they have short stories inside. The first short story is basically like in my opinion, it felt more like an anti-drug propaganda story, which basically it's an espionage story about some people busting some drug runners. They kind of demonize the drug runners. Personally, I think drugs should be legal. All drugs, even the bad ones. Is you're doing it to yourself. It's your own choice. You're not like obviously it should be illegal to drug somebody else, but I mean, if you're running from what you're scared of, you're not really solving the problem, and you're just creating a big black market, which people are getting thrown in jail for, and that's some bullshit because they're just trying to feel good. Not that I even do drugs. I don't care to do drugs. I don't need them anyway. But yeah, drugs should be legal. That's just my opinion. Um, anyway, second short story was I think that was the fantasy. What the fuck was that? I'm kind of scared. Do you guys hear that? I think it was the dog snoring. He's asleep. Anyway, trying to recall what was what. Yeah, the fantasy story was the second one because um it was the fantasy story. It's basically it's kind of generic, but it was fun to read. Reminded me of Soul Eater, but not bad. And then there was another one, but I forget completely what that was. But I remember it being the best and most enjoyable. So I guess get the fourth volume if you want to read that story that I can't really speak to you about because I don't remember. I should have thought this through. I forgot there were short stories in these. I just remembered. Um, but yeah, Zombie Powder, it's pretty good. As you know, it gets canceled, but I don't think that's a big deal with this manga because I read through it and it didn't. It felt like there was an open ending. It's an episodic series. It just feels like it could have continued on for more, which that's why people say you should go back to it sometime. And I mean, I guess I agree. I didn't care that much for Zombie Powder, but it was definitely fun to read. The third volume, I'll tell you, was pretty boring. It got into some fights that were just not that interesting. Um, but yeah, that's that. And then hadn't read manga until recently when I was prepping up for Halloween because I like Halloween. I like the atmosphere. There's a bit of a nostalgic factor as well. Um, I'm gonna talk about Halloween in a bit as well. I'm gonna recommend you guys some stuff for next Halloween, or if you don't celebrate Halloween, some good stuff to watch anyway. But anyway, I was reading Hellsing. I'm on the second volume, but I read the first volume. I would not recommend this for Halloween. It's not a good Halloween title. It's a good title, don't get me wrong, but it's not a Halloween title. I I figured, I'll go into it because it's about vampires and supernatural shit, but it's not. It doesn't feel like a Halloween title. The ideal Halloween title. Um, because it's not a horror. It's not scary. It's basically an action with supernatural elements, uh, and some politics mixed in as well. And don't get me wrong. It's a great story. Just not a Halloween title. People keep recommending it for Halloween. I remember, not really anymore. I just remember back about a year ago, some people were recommending Helsing for a Halloween title. No, complete bullshit. It's not a Halloween title. Read it, but don't expect it to fuel your Halloween spirit. Now, for me, it's not even necessarily horror that I like about Halloween. I don't really know what it is. I can't really explain it, but horror movies are definitely something that I like during Halloween. But there's something more. I don't really know how to explain. I just said that already. But yeah, Helsing, I'd recommend. I have the first 9 volumes out of 10. 10 is extremely expensive. Actually, a few of them are extremely expensive, but I got my hands on the first 9. I also have the anime manga but I haven't read that yet because I'd rather just watch the anime. Anime manga are stupid anyway. Um, I got that anime manga for free, but I mean, I never pay for an anime manga except for the Avatar one, Avatar: The Last Airbender, as I was talking about earlier. Yeah, it's pretty much all the manga I've read in the past few months. Not as much, as it could have been, but I've been reading other stuff as well. Now let's get into the anime. So I don't know if I talked about this last month, but I did watch Kids on the Slope at some point. It might have been covered during the last live stream, but I'll cover it quickly this time. Basically, it's from the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and Sankyo no Terra, and it's not an action or anything though. It's a musical anime. Well, not a musical, but a music themed anime. Whoops, about jazz music. Basically, this character plays the piano, but he plays classical music. And he's going to a new school because he is constantly transferring to new schools. He meets this guy who's the big tough guy in the class. Everyone's scared of him, except for him because he gets him something. And they strike a bond, and he plays drums, but he plays jazz drums, and he gets him to play jazz piano. And that's their friend. That's another somewhat significant girl. I don't know why. I guess who else would you put there? I don't know. Here's the back. There's some good special features too. I didn't even finish explaining. Basically, they play jazz music. It's about friendship. It's been described as a coming of age anime. It's basically about being a youth, and also, of course, it's more of a secondary plot line, jazz music, and playing it and getting better at it. But it's mainly about friendships. Um, Pretty touching. And it's set in the 60s. For some reason, some people, it's a big deal to some people. Whatever. Anyway, there's a few good interviews. There's one with Watanabe himself, the director. That was pretty good. There's one with two musicians. They modeled the drums after an actual drummer and the piano after an actual pianist. And yeah, they interviewed them. That was pretty interesting. And Yoko Kano, the music director for not only this anime but Cowboy Bebop as well, and many other anime. She's pretty prominent in the industry. And of course, previews and shit. And yeah, first time I watched this was like in ninth grade, and I watched the sub. It was on Crunchyroll, and then this time I watched the dub because I found out this guy in English is voiced by Chris Patton, one of the best voice actors I've ever heard in my life. Also Crispin Freeman, but he's not in this. No, actually, I think he might have had a small part. No, I don't think he did. Anyway, Chris Patton, he in the English dubs of these anime, he plays Sato Tatsuhiro from Welcome to the NHK. He plays the forget his name, but he's like the lead guy in Ghost Stories, which is one of the funniest anime I've ever seen. He's also he plays Greed in Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Can't really think of anything else at the moment, but you can look him up on Wikipedia. He's fucking fantastic, especially as Sato. That was phenomenal. I wouldn't have had like anybody else play Sato. This guy fucking killed it. But yeah. Also, this guy plays the father of Nagisa in Clannad, the voice actor. And actually, this guy, he is the main character of Clannad, and the English voice actor plays the Clannad lead, Tomoya. Is there anything else? Anybody else? Oh, and Greg Ayres has a role, but it's not a very big role. He's in a few episodes. It's pretty cool. Yeah, highly recommend this if you want a touching anime about being a youth that also delves into jazz music. Phenomenal masterpiece. Anyway, I also watched Evangelion. Now let me talk to you really quick. So I don't support piracy. Um, People always want streaming, but there's an alternative. Get a Netflix DVD subscription. They'll send DVDs to you one at a time, but you can set it so that it sends multiple. Um, and my mom uses that, and sometimes I use that, and you can find a wider selection of anime through the DVD queue, or not queue, the their DVD library than on their instant library. They have a pretty pathetic anime instant library. It's retarded, but I mean, you can't really blame it. Well, yeah, you can blame it. How the fuck does stuff go? Rosario Vampire was recently taken off the instant. No, actually, you got 10 more days on that. So if you want to watch Rosario Vampire on Netflix, go for it. Which I'll talk about in a second because I did watch that on Netflix. Anyway, use the DVD queue as an outlet. Spread the word if you don't support piracy or you would prefer that they don't pirate. So then those benign sites do not get revenue. Anyway, I watched Evangelion through this method because my mom was actually watching it. She was getting the DVDs. Figured I'd rewatch the series because I first watched it through piracy sites back in 2014. Prior to that, as I talked about earlier, I had read the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, and I'd also read the first volume of the manga from the library, like afterward. And yeah, I love Eva. I didn't like it as much as I thought I did, but I definitely did enjoy it. Um, I don't really want to go into it because it's very popular. But let me just say, it's a mecha, but if that dissuades you, just know that that's not it's not about robots fighting. It's about the mental states of the pilots and other individuals in the series, and it's about robots fighting. Well, not robots, robots and aliens. Yeah, sounds kind of stupid when I say it like that, but it is what it is. Um, yeah. Then I watched Death and Rebirth and The End of Evangelion, because those were also on that DVD selection. So Death and Rebirth. Well, that's first half is a recap of all of Eva, and the second half is an alternate ending. And then this continues in End of Eva, except in End of Eva, they recap. They pretty much play the entire portion that is in Death and Rebirth. So Death and Rebirth is basically a recap and preview episode. It's pretty much pointless. If you're going to get one of the two, get End of Eva because it is the entire alternate ending, none of that recapping. Death and Rebirth is basically an incomplete story which is led off with a recap of the entire anime. Go with End of Eva. And of course the original series, but yeah, it's difficult to find a lot of this. All three of those are really out of print. Anyway, next on the anime list, in terms of Eva, would be other than the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, it would be to get the Rebuild films, because that is basically a sequel from End of Ava. I'm not going to spoil it though. Basically, No, I'm not gonna say anything. I can't really I can't really phrase it very well. Um, anyway, another one I watched was entitled Hoshizora e Kakarahashi, or A Bridge to the Starry Skies. It's on Crunchyroll. Basically, it's a light-hearted version of Clannad with basically a fun anime. It's basically if you ever go out with some friends, you have a good time, and you get back home late at night, it feels kind of like that. Um, Now, personally, I prefer to, um, hang out with people I'm actually friends with, and not just people I know and like. But if you know what I mean. But it feels like the just going out with some people you like and having some fun. It's a fun anime. Not basically some guy moves into a new town with his younger brother, and they stay with their aunt, and they meet some girls and a guy, and they all become friends. And they have misadventures, and it's pretty funny too. Highly recommend it, actually. There's some great music as well. It may not have been that deep, but it definitely captured my interest and kept me interested throughout the entire series. It's like 12 episodes, by the way, so it's not that long. And finally, for anime, I watched Rosario Vampire, uh, pretty much in preparation for Halloween, because that's what I do. Hold up, how long have we been going on? Let me check. Oh, I can't check. Oh, I can check actually. About an hour. Interesting. Yeah. Um, Rosario to Vampire. That's what it's called, I believe, in Japanese. Um, whoops. Um, this is an anime that I watched when I was first getting into anime back in 7th grade, I believe. No, not 7th grade, 8th grade. I was getting into some more anime, a wider variety from what I was watching before. My, I found a clip of it. I was watching some anime montages on YouTube, and I think I saw Kurumu. I'm like, oh, who's that? Because if you've seen her, you'd know why I would want to know who that is. You know. Anyway, um, I looked it up and I watched it, and I actually was kind of on and off about it because I didn't finish it until the summer that year. Um, yeah, it's funny. It's basically a harem. A guy, he's a human. That's a key aspect. He's a human. He doesn't pass his primary school exams, so he's gonna have to repeat the year. But his dad saves the day by finding a pass to the Yokai Academy, which is a school for monsters, but no one knows that. Um, so he goes there, and it's full of monsters, and they're all in human form. So that's why no one notices him, because they all look like humans. They just can't reveal their monster form because that's gonna just cause chaos. Um, Hold on, let me adjust. So, he meets a girl. She's a vampire, and her name is Mocha. And they become friends, and then they meet some more people, and they all become friends. And they fight other monsters that are bullies, and gets pretty hectic later on. It's pretty fun. It's 2 seasons, 26 episodes. It is on Netflix until the 15th of November, I believe. So I don't know why they do that. I don't know. It's probably not their fault, but I'm blaming them for now. But yeah, it's pretty much nostalgic to me. Some people don't like it. It's probably not nostalgic to them. But it definitely injected some Halloween spirit into my veins. That was pretty fun to watch Anyway, that's all for anime. I also want to talk about a couple other things. I'm gonna. Never mind. It was a blank. I watched all Family Guy that is on Netflix. That show was amazing. It has like a 1.5 star rating. A lot of people hate it apparently, or just thought it was bad and are rational, but that's not likely when it comes to Netflix users. Family Guy was great. I loved it. Countless memorable scenes and clips and whatnot. I highly recommend it. So around September 2017, season 15 is being put on Netflix. So I'll catch that when that comes out for sure. I really liked the Stewie and Brian sort of relationship. They were a great pair. They're amazing. And Quagmire as well. He was hilarious. And of course the others. Just not my favorites. And another show I watched on Netflix was entitled Wilfred. It was about a guy who tries to kill himself, but then it fails. And then the next morning, his neighbor brings him her dog to watch because she has to go somewhere and she couldn't hire anyone. But he sees a man in a dog suit instead of an actual dog. But everyone else sees the guy as an actual dog. And the Wilfred, that's the dog's name, pretty much helps the guy. He gives him advice, but it's not always, what the guy wants. So they end up quarreling about that sometimes. It's pretty good. I also checked out the Australian version, which is what it's based off of, and I don't like it as much. I don't know. It's just not as engaging or interesting. I think Elijah Wood, yeah, he's a much better actor than the guy in the Australian version. Though the guy in the Australian version isn't bad, he's just not as good. The Elijah Wood was perfect for the role. He had the perfect, like absolutely perfect chemistry with the guy who played Wilfred, and he had the perfect fucking expressions and just attitude and personality. It was great. I highly recommend Wilfred. It's hilarious. Then I read the book Let the Right One In. It's about a kid who befriends a vampire. He doesn't really know it's a vampire though at first, and the kid is bullied, and they strike a bond. It's probably the best book I've ever read. Also, probably my favorite. Um, it, I just explained the premise. That's all I'm gonna say. This book, I didn't want it to end. Like I did not want it to end. I wanted it to end, but that was the vague. Um, I rented it from the library, so that's really the only reason I wanted to finish it. I also wanted to start Hellsing because it was almost Halloween, but I ultimately and overall did not want it to end. I wanted it to keep on going because it gave different characters' perspectives. It just gave you all the details from what everyone's thinking, even if they're not as important as they seem. They're given a voice, and it was phenomenal. It was suspenseful. It was um, uplifting too. It was, oh my god, just fucking amazing. wow. Like I tried watching I did watch the movie, the Swedish version, which was the original version of the movie, based off the book, and it did a pretty sloppy job at covering it, but it was enjoyable enough for me to finish it. And then I tried to watch Let Me In, which is the American remake, and that I just couldn't even get through 10 minutes. It was not going to be good. Um, I'm sure it was good, but I just wasn't going to watch it. Um, there was a sequel, like an epilogue, included in a short story collection by the author. So I'm going to read that sometime. Yeah, Let the Right One In. Highly recommend it. It's kind of some messed up scenes, but it's not really anything horrific, just kind of weird. Um, yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say other than just if it's kind of a like more of a higher reading level though, so just in case that that phases you, just it's something to consider. But yeah, it's probably the best book I've ever read. I also loved The Solitude of Prime Numbers. That was a great book. A series of unfortunate events. Harry Potter, I also say is one of my favorites. There's one called The Jester by James Patterson. That was a great book. That's all I can think of right now. But yeah, now let's talk about Halloween. So I'm just gonna give you some movie titles, maybe say a little bit about each. I wrote them down on this paper. So House of a Thousand Corpses and the sequel, though I haven't seen the sequel yet, but it's probably just as good, if not better. Basically, it's a throwback to old slasher horror films. Um, it's funny though. It's kind of a dark comedy as well as a horror movie. Definitely recommend it if you like kind of gory movies with a bit of torture. They're the classic Universal monster films, which I own this box set with all of them, but I'm not going to show it right now because I have to dig it out. But that's like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Invisible Man, and all of those sequels and related titles. And also the Phantom of the Opera is included in that box set. It's not really regarded as one of the classic monsters, but I mean, I haven't even seen that one yet, but I will. I will. Another one, of course, is the scary movies. These are pretty much spoofs of horror movies. They're hilarious. I've not seen the fourth one, but I've seen 1 through 3 and the fifth one as well. I liked all of them. I liked the third and fifth better than the first and second, though. I think they get better as they go on. So I hope the fourth one is hilarious as well. I think my favorite, though, was the third one. Leslie Nielsen is in that one. And George Carlin, though not as big a role. Another one is entitled The Haunted Mansion. I actually have it. Hold on. Yeah, I've had this since I was a kid. This movie is pretty nostalgic to me, but it's a pretty good movie anyway. It's kind of for children, so it's not going to be like really scary, but it has its place. It does have its place. There's a show entitled The Twilight Zone. You've probably heard of it or seen some episodes before. It's from like the 50s or 60s. Basically, each episode is a new story. It's basically something strange happens. um, that wouldn't happen in real life. For instance, the first episode is a guy who's stuck in a town. Well, not a town, but he's on the world. He's on Earth, but nobody else is there. It's just him. He goes into the bar. There's nobody there. He serves himself. He goes other places. There's no one there. He thinks he sees someone, but it's just a mannequin. Um, it's that kind of thing. Um, it's not scary, but it's more of a mystery. But it's very memorable, and I highly recommend it. And there's a film entitled Sleepy Hollow. It's a Tim Burton film, basically the story of the legend of Sleepy Hollow, but it's quite different. It's basically a mystery, a murder mystery, with some supernatural elements. It's very good though. It's pretty enticing. And there was a recent title, well, a couple recent titles here. There's one entitled "The Girl in the Photographs," which was pretty much um, these two guys. They're pretty much sadistic serial killers. They go around beating up women and then taking pictures of them and posting them in places where people can see. And a girl gets spooked by them, and meanwhile, a photographer, a professional photographer, sees them and he sees it as a challenge. So they all come together and we see what happens. It's pretty gory though. There's one called The Babadook, which is more like a drama. I don't really feel dramatic though. Like it's not like one of those sad dramas. It's where you're pretty much just feeling for the people. You don't really see the monster that much though, which was kind of disappointing. I would have loved to see him a lot more. But it was interesting. Basically, a single mom raising a son, and she reads the son a scary bedtime story because he picks it out, and it's called The Babadook. It tells a story about a creepy specter that infiltrates the bedroom and kills everyone, uh, more or less. And then it comes true. Um, yeah, it's on Netflix. Another one called Hush. Basically, a deaf woman lives out in the woods where there's like maybe 10 houses within like 5 miles radius. And since she's deaf and she's also mute, so she can't talk, she can't hear. She can read lips though. But this killer comes around. He kills one of her neighbors. Then he goes after her because he sees her as an easy target because she's deaf and mute. And it was pretty good. Let's just say she gives him a run for his money. It was entertaining as fuck to watch. And there was one called 13 Cameras. I actually watched this morning. This was one of the best horror films I've ever seen. Better than The Sixth Sense. Better than what's another horror film? I'd say. Hmm, uh, I don't want to go after the Universal ones, but fuck it, better than The Invisible Man. Okay, best modern horror I've ever seen. 13 Cameras. It's on Netflix. It doesn't have a Wikipedia page. It wasn't that popular, but it was amazing. Basically, it's a great premise. A landlord. He owns an apartment complex, small apartment complex, or not an apartment complex, just like a sort of area. Um, he installs security cameras in the house in different areas like in the bathroom, in the shower, in the living room, each of the main rooms. Um, There's 13 total. Well, ultimately there is. He puts some more in later on in the film. But this couple moves in, and he is in his house watching them the whole time, and they have no idea. And he he is a strange man. He's some would describe him as creepy. I don't find people like him to be creepy though. Um, yeah, definitely a little bit, but not like the worst thing ever, in my opinion. That is my opinion. Um, but they basically they're going through all their personal life, their all their drama, and he is there watching. He doesn't seem to be the bad. Like the film could just be a drama, but he doesn't want the woman to leave because, well, I mean, you know, yeah, and he goes out and intervenes. They have no idea he's watching, and it just seems like so random that well, they don't know it's him, but there's interference pretty much. They don't even know. I'm just rambling on, but that was the best horror film I've ever seen. The best. It was amazing. The the old guy, the creepy guy, he was phenomenal. The actor was phenomenal. Highly recommend that film. Um, yeah, it's great. Yeah, one final thing I want to recommend is Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. I like Cinemassacre. They made the Angry Video Game Nerd. I am a big fan of them, and they do this thing every year. Well, this year was their last, but they pretty much review a horror movie every day for the month of October. So I recommend that. You can find it on their website. They don't post them on YouTube. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, there's an album by the band Phantomas called The Director's Cut. That is something else um, that could fit in somewhere. Once again, The Director's Cut by Phantomas, in case you missed it the first time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, I know I didn't talk mostly about anime or manga. I'd say I actually talked mostly about other things in anime or manga, but um, I like talking about this sort of thing. Um, so yeah, this pretty much concludes the second installment in this live stream series. So yeah, if you watched, tell me what you thought, and uh, yeah, bye. If I can find this thing, stop broadcast.